Welcome to No Tracers, the podcast. My name is K, just the letter K, and I'm going to be your host here on this podcast. If you are new to the podcast, please go back and listen to the previous episodes. I started this podcast off with a bunch of tips and tricks and gear that I think you need for urban exploring to get you started. So if you guys are new to exploring, please go back and listen to the previous episodes of this podcast. I had a few guests on before this podcast, so go listen to some other stories and then come back and listen to this, or listen to those after this podcast. This week on the podcast, I have Sekondtry from St. Louis on to share his stories and his insights on exploring. He does abandoned stuff, but he also does a lot of rooftopping, cranes, all kinds of city stuff in St. Louis. And he also travels a fair bit outside of St. Louis, but St. Louis is his main hub where he explores. And I've been following him on Instagram for quite a while now. So I figured, hey, why not reach out to Sekondtry and see if he would want to be a guest on this podcast. So Sekondtry, thank you for coming on the podcast and sharing your stories with everybody. Before we jump into this episode, just a couple things for housekeeping purposes. So I have a new website called notracers.com. If you guys want to go see my photography from abandoned places, or if you want to read blogs, if you're into that kind of thing, I have a bunch of blog posts about my urban explorations all over the world. So if you go to notracers.com, you can check that out. If you want a photo print from me, or if you want a copy of my book, No Tracers, an Urban Explorer's Diary, you can go to notracers.com/shop and pick up a print or a book today, and I will sign everything and mail it out to you as soon as possible. Thank you guys so much for the support on the book. It has been huge. It's been instrumental in me making this podcast because of the book, because of the feedback with the book. I figured, why not make this podcast and have some guests on to share their stories. So another thing I need to let you guys know about is that down in the description, there are a bunch of Amazon links to products that I think would help you in your urban exploration endeavors. Things like backpacks, solar chargers, camera gear, even some lighting. You know, it's dark in a lot of these abandoned places, so you need some good lighting. So definitely check out the links below. But without further ado, we are going to jump into this episode of No Tracers, the podcast. If you guys like what you are hearing at any time throughout this podcast, please do me a favor. Take 30 seconds to leave a rating and some feedback. If you leave feedback, I will actually send you a signed photo print. Just take a screenshot of your feedback and DM it to me on Instagram at no.tracers, and I'll get you a signed photo print sent out immediately. The ratings and the feedback really help this podcast grow, especially on the iTunes charts. So if you're listening in Apple Podcasts, please be sure to leave a rating. I need to take a second to thank our first partner, which is Liquid Death Water. I am now a death peddler. If you don't know what Liquid Death Water is, don't worry. You've got an ad coming in 3, 2, 1. From the streams of the Austrian Alps comes a new kind of water. A water that is sure to raise you from your grave. If you're tired of buying cases of plastic water bottles that contain carcinogens and God knows what else, or if you're trying to lower your waste footprint, Liquid Death comes in beautifully rugged aluminum cans. Murder your thirst with a can of Liquid Death. Check the link in the description and use code JustTheLetterK at checkout for 10% off your order. Liquid Death. Murder your thirst. All right, let's jump into this episode. Sekondtry, please introduce yourself and what it is you do to the No Tracers audience.
What's up, everyone? My name is Larry, or also known as Sekondtry, and I'm a full-time freelance photographer, also urban explorer, and yeah, pretty simple. It's me.
So let's go back to the very beginning of your exploration tale. When did you start exploring? What got you into it?
I was exploring really, really early on. As a kid, I had always been with the neighborhood group of people who skateboarded around and saw abandoned buildings and wondered, what was in there. And that was 12, 13. I always had that curious mind, I guess you could say. And then whenever I started taking photos in late 2016, it was just a really, really easy transition to kind of just make that happen and be like, oh man, I should probably go back on these old buildings and see what's going on. So it's kind of where it all stemmed from. It's really my old friends as a pre-teen.
Yeah, I started exploring around the age of 13 as well with my older brothers, and we went out into the woods and found an abandoned place, and that's how I got hooked. I like caught that bug, you know what I mean? So for people that are trying to get into like photography of either abandoned places, or you do other things, you do rooftops, you do all kinds of shit around St. Louis. So let's talk a little bit about the gear that you shoot with. What was your first camera? What are you on now? What would you recommend to people that are just getting into it?
My very first camera that I had was a GoPro Hero 4 Silver. And that was just like that's I know, it's comical, but that is what that is what it all started. Everything that I have, like my field of view, my perspective on things, like literally seeing things through a GoPro changed my life, honestly, to be like, damn, like there's a bigger world out there than what I'm seeing right now with my eyes. And it all fit in my pocket. So, but right now my current setup is I have a Canon 5D Mark IV. I have a Canon L series 16 to 35 2.8, and then I primarily shoot most of my city stuff and all my portraits with a Sigma Art 2414, and that's it. That's the setup.
That Sigma art, I love. First of all, Sigma is a great brand. I've done a lot of behind the scenes work with Sigma, and I hope to continue doing that after this coronavirus bullshit is over. Um,
It'll be over soon, I think.
I think we're on the mend, if you will. But
Missouri is open, by the
okay, I was
way.
gonna say, speaking of like coronavirus and all this stuff, like, so have you been exploring during quarantine, during quote unquote lockdown?
There hasn't really been a lockdown for me. I'm kind of privileged, I guess, in a sense. So like I live directly in the middle of downtown. Like I moved downtown for a reason to like be in the action all the time. And so during this whole thing since March 15th, I have woken up, drank my coffee, and went exploring every day.
Wow.
Like I haven't it's been a pretty normal, system that I have going on right now for the simple fact that I don't really go around a lot of people anyway.
Mm,
And the city doesn't really look any different. St. Louis is kind of a ghost town. Like we're a major city, but there's not like anybody in the streets, even when there's not a coronavirus pandemic going on. So it's like it's not a different place like New York or
mm.
Chicago, like where you would visually see something different. St. Louis kind of has almost stayed the same in a weird sense.
Wow, that's so fascinating. It's crazy to hear that like part of it is, part of the country, especially St. Louis. I've been there many times, and you're right. It's almost like its own ghost town all the time. So it's super interesting that you've been able to like, continue to capture it.
It's this weird little pocket. I'll say that I mean, I think we have like over a little over 300,000 like in the city limits. And then we only have confirmed cases, I think like under 11,000 right now, like total as a state, like not even St. Louis.
You guys are
So
killing it.
yeah, yeah. Like I take photos at a nightclub here in St. Louis, and we actually opened up for the first time last night.
Wow.
Like a nightclub, like bars and restaurants and like clubs are open.
Wow. And are people like wearing masks, or is it just like normal every day?
Yeah, yeah, people are practicing social distancing. People are wearing
Okay.
masks. There's a bunch of like the whole place just smells like hand sanitizer. But it it is cool to see like to have some type of normalcy.
Mm,
Um, and people are just like really, it is not our nature to just sit around and not do anything.
exactly.
So it's like people are itching to be out, and a lot of these people are going out with people that they've already been around.
Hmm.
So it's not really like oh my God, this person, everyone's sick. Let's just go out and get everyone sick. Like people are being very, very smart about it still, which is really reassuring.
Oh, for sure. So,
So
you've created a photography book, right?
yeah, so I've done, yeah, it's actually right in front of me. I did a book called Views from the Loo, and it was just like it was 20 photos of like some of just like my favorite photos of that I've shot only in St. Louis. Like I didn't do any type of travel. I absolutely love St. Louis. Like I'm such a hometown, homegrown kid. That's why I've really stuck around here and not moved somewhere else. But yeah, I did a book about mm, say a little over a year ago now, and I only did like a limited run of like 25 copies.
Wow. So with that book, how long did it take you to create that? Is there any writing in it? Did you add stories, or is it just strictly photos?
It's strictly photos. It's a hardback book. Um, I did stick with like some themes. Like I would do like, a symmetry set, or I would do like an abandoned set, and then I do like a street set. But it was all photos from St. Louis that I had pretty much just taken over the last year prior to that.
I like the idea of doing, sorry to cut you off. I like the idea of you doing a limited run of books. I think that adds to the value of it. You know what I mean? What made you want to do that versus like printing a bulk amount?
I really, it's weird to think that like we're living in this digital age right now, but 15 years from now, 20 years from now, if I'm, as morbid as it sounds, if I'm not alive or if something changes, if I'm not around, or if I become some famous photographer, like I've always I've always kind of thought like it's really really cool to have like rare things. Like I've always been a big fan of like shoes and like sneakers, and I know like obviously the rarer the shoe, the higher the value, and the more like it's an accomplishment to have something like that. So I think I kind of took that whole mindset of it, and anybody can make a book and make 1,000 copies and like make a bunch of money, but I didn't want to do it for that. I wanted people who genuinely like what I'm doing to have something that's super intimate from me to them. And that's why I did like a very limited run.
I dig that.
And it's honestly a reason too why um I notice a lot of photographers and a lot of videographers like you will you'll be able to tell they take photos because they'll have a bunch of selfies or people that have taken photos of them holding a camera taking photos, and they don't actually showcase any of their work. So I always wanted to never like be known. I never wanted to be seen. I never wanted people to care about what I look like or what I'm doing. I always wanted people to care about what my work looked like and what I was doing,
Definitely.
like in my photos. So it kind of goes back to like why I did the book the way I did it.
No, I love the idea of doing, like I said, a limited run. I think that's so unique. And I have a book as well, but I printed a ton of them. I was like, yeah, let's see how much money I can make off of my photos. So I mean, yeah,
I mean,
but
it is the way it
yeah,
is, but that's not a bad thing. Like I am totally transparent with all that. Like yes, I never thought in a million years that I would be a person that is taking photos for a living as a
right.
full-time career and making money off of it. Never. That was never the goal. That was never even a thought. I was just like, this is what I like to do right now. It's fun. It helps me take my mind off bullshit, and I'm gonna keep doing it until you know I don't like it anymore. And if that happens to be 10 years from now or 2 days from now, it's like when my time comes and I don't like taking photos anymore, I'll just stop.
Yeah. So, as a freelancer, how long did it take? I have another podcast called Project Freelance. So now I got to ask you a freelancing question. So, how long did it take for you to go from just being a photographer to making money full time, being able to pay your bills, being able to pay your rent, all that kind of stuff? How long did that take for you?
I would say probably about 2.5 years, and it was a really slow process. It wasn't just like oh man, I got this $10,000 gig and like someone saw me. Like no, like I wish,
Yeah.
but it was a lot of me just doing what I normally like to do. Like I wasn't really trying to. I didn't go out of my way to be like, oh, this is what's making money. I need to take photos of this. That never happened at all. It was oh, um, oh, you take portraits. What's your session cost? At the time I was like, oh, I'm charging $50, and they're like, oh, great, perfect, and I was like, wait, you want to pay me to take photos of you? Like that, like whole like when that like bomb went off in my head, I was like, wait a minute, I like doing this and people will pay me to do it. I'm like, okay. And that's like when the gears really started like turning and be like, okay, now I think I'm taking photos good enough to where people are buying prints, and they were. And I had the mindset of, well, if people are buying my prints and I started just like going to like hotels in St. Louis and be like, "Hey, you guys have shitty photos in your lobby. How about you support somebody local and put some real artwork in here, some real photos that aren't like, stock imagery."
Mm-hmm.
And that worked a couple of times, and then like that's really what kind of led me to doing the book. I was like, man, like this would be like almost a great hard copy portfolio in a way. Like that's really where the book idea came from.
Mm.
And then I just kept moving forward from that. And now like I take photos in a nightclub, and that like is a salary job, and like that pays my bills. And I still get to dick around and do everything I want during the day, and I get to travel, and it just worked out really, really well.
Wow.
So it's like, and that was never the mindset. I was just like, man, like I just really, really like doing it, and I put so much time and effort into it. I mean, I like eat, sleep, and breathe taking photos,
That's amazing. I love
and
it.
I think it shows off.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, your stuff is clearly. I mean, I reached out to you for a reason. I've been following you on Instagram for quite a while, and I love seeing your work and the places you get to explore. How are you finding these places that you find? I mean, you do cranes, you do rooftops. There's this like really cool clock image that you did that was featured in St. Louis Mag. How are you finding these locations? Is it word of mouth? Or are you just doing the footwork yourself?
I don't really shoot with a lot of people. I know some people shoot with like a group of people or like a core, 3 or 4
Mm-hmm.
people. I shoot alone, and it wasn't always that way, but I think that's really what kind of led to me just going around and like driving around and just testing the waters in a sense. I've been into active places plenty of times thinking they were abandoned. That's just because everything looks like shit in St. Louis. So it's all a trial and error. It's a numbers game. Even with rooftops,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I've I've tried to go back to a rooftop 12 times and then finally got it the one time.
Wow.
It's like it's all luck. If if you're the type of person that can go out and plan and do something, then hats off to you, because I do not do anything like that. It's just a pure impulse thing. Like I don't Google map things. I don't sit for hours and hours in research. I just purposely just try to go get lost and see what I find.
I love it.
Like all the time.
It's so sick. So I know you mostly do St. Louis. What other places have you been that you enjoyed capturing?
I really, really enjoyed Philly. Philly
Mm.
was one of my very first photography trips. Very first time me ever being on a plane, very first time me ever traveling alone. I mean, like it was like really, really me stepping out of my comfort zone. And I met up with my friend at the time when she was there. I don't know if she still lives there anymore, but Jen Brown. She was an urban explorer, and like we just met through Instagram, and it was pretty much just a random, hey, you should come up here and shoot. Like, there's plenty of dope stuff up here. Like, I'll show you around. And I was just, I don't know, impulsive. Was like, yeah, that's a great idea. And I'd never done that before. I'd never met nobody on Instagram, and that was like the very first thing I did. So Philly has a very near and dear place in my heart.
And what a cool
That like it
city.
really kind of like, oh my god, I love Philly because I went back in early 2017. So it was like there was a lot of good stuff still in Philly,
Mm.
because like how it's happened over the years where Instagram obviously and people have just like swarmed, like just absolutely decimated places.
Yep.
Like Detroit is not the same obviously that it was in like 2012 or 2013.
Right.
St. Louis is very, very gentrified. Like it's it just is forever evolving so quick.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But yeah, Philly. To answer your question, Philly is probably one of my favorite cities.
Man, I love that
I've been
place.
all over the world. Like I've been to Shanghai, China,
Wow.
and like Philly, I think still kind of trumps that.
Wow. That's incredible. Yeah, I love Philly. I got to visit, the Eastern State Penitentiary that's downtown, which is like the most fascinating place. Like you have a giant abandoned prison in the middle of a downtown area. Like what? What?
I know.
So good.
See, I didn't even do that. I did like RPS,
Oh
DPS.
yeah,
I did like all the power plants because in St. Louis we just don't have anything like
for
that.
sure.
We also don't have any hospitals in St. Louis. It's kind of weird.
That is super weird. You got to come out to LA. We have an abandoned 17-story hospital I'll take you to. It's madness.
I went to LA. I've been to LA before, and I didn't hit one hospital.
Oh, dude, you got to get back
That's what I'm
out
saying.
here.
I actually, that's what I'm like. I don't know why you're doing this podcast about me. Actually, I really suck at what I'm doing.
Hey, I
I'm
think
like,
you're a great
I'm like,
photographer,
well,
man. I think you're
I'm like,
talented.
God, well, if I was as good at urban exploring as I am photography, I'd probably be doing something with my life.
Yeah,
I'm like, I dropped the ball so many cities. I'm just like, oh God, I suck.
no, you're totally good. I love your shit, man. I absolutely love it. Your spiral
Well, thank you.
staircases are like mind blowing. You know, I don't know how you find these places, but I'm continuously blown away, and it makes me want to go to St. Louis. Obviously, like, so talk a little bit about social media and how that's helped you in your freelancing career, like the growth wise.
If it wasn't, I'll say this, and I know a lot of people talk bad about Instagram. If it wasn't for Instagram, I would not have a career. I mean, there is a lot of bullshit and like high school drama that comes with Instagram,
True.
but I mean, like for instance, like I had the St. Louis Magazine article like here. They wrote an article about me, and I had no idea who the dude was that followed me, and like I, it's it's a very humbling thing to have people reach out to you that have no ties to you whatsoever, and they don't have to tell you that they like your work or that they want to buy a print or that they want to support a complete stranger just because of the photos you take. And that is just like such a crazy thing to me. Like I wake up every day and I'm just like I'm truly humbled because like there's really no like it almost makes me speechless sometimes to have people who just support someone just from like seeing a photo,
It's crazy.
and that's all thanks to Instagram.
Mm.
And a huge part of my following here in St. Louis, I think, is my buddy Jordan Bauer, who runs the St. Louis Gram page. Who's like, it's pretty much like the big page here in St. Louis, and he would like always repost me when I first started, and like really used a bigger platform here in the city to kind of get my work out there to show people. So I'm like forever grateful for that.
That's amazing, man. I love hearing about like connections made over Instagram, you know. Like you said, yeah, there's a lot of like high school drama, all that bullshit, but I think that
Especially in the urban exploring
yeah.
community. God, it's
Oh
like,
my god. It's
that's why
yeah, it's almost
it's
toxic.
that's why I really don't label myself honestly as an urban explorer. Like I I would just say I'm just a photographer
Mm.
at this point. Like, yeah, I break into buildings still, of course. Like that shit's fun, but I feel like that's just like such a one-sided like box to be put
Mhm.
in. And I think as a creative, like we never want to be put into a category or like a subcategory. And I would just like when people ask me like what I take photos of, I'm just like I'm just a photographer. Like I just take photos of whatever at this
Yeah.
point.
No, I totally get you. Yeah, to keep from, you know, falling into that box, I totally understand. What was your scariest exploration?
uh Probably in Philly. There was DPS was really bad at the time. It's probably still this bad too. But it's just littered with scrappers all the time. I mean, it I I didn't if I didn't know any better, I would think that they were doing construction on
Wow.
DPS because there were so many hammers and saws and people just like I was just like, what the hell is going on here? And then like people would just like hop out of nowhere and just like scare the fuck out of me. Like I never felt like I was in danger, but it was definitely a very unsettling feeling to be like hearing just sawzalls and saline torches like 10 feet away from you while you're trying to set up a shot. I'm just like, I don't think I should be doing this. I never had like a super like freak, like knock on wood, I've never come across like a dead body or I've never like been like robbed.
Mm.
I've just been lucky, I guess. I've definitely like in North City sometimes makes you feel a little uncomfortable, but I've never had a real true bad experience as bad or as cliche as that sounds. I don't know. I know it's not juicy, but I yeah, I've had pretty normal like times in abandoned buildings and whatnot.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that. I like safety. Safety is a good thing when you're exploring for sure.
Safety is good.
Yeah.
I
The
do carry a gun on me
okay.
in St. Louis, so it's like it's like the Wild West here. I'm kind of like prepared for whatever, but I never want anything to happen, obviously.
For sure. No, that's, I mean, like I said, gun safety, you know, any kind of safety is great. And the last episode of this podcast, the guest actually did find a dead body. So it's interesting to hear you say that you've never found one.
I hear about it.
It's crazy.
I hear about it all the time. I mean, I've heard like stories like going through, friends of friends through Instagram and oh, so and so found a dead body in Detroit, like in the ice, like in a basement. I'm like, what? Like, what are you talking about?
It's insane.
It's
Insane.
just like if honestly, I'm a pussy kind of. I don't know what that would do to me if I found like a dead. I mean, straight up, I'm like, well, I mean, I wouldn't go back there. I don't think.
True. True.
I mean, that's just the way I am. Like, oh, nah, that one don't feel right no more. I'll edit some raw photos from the past
Yep.
and cut my losses.
Yep. I feel you. I feel you. So what has been your favorite exploration?
Going to China was probably the coolest thing ever. To go to China for 10 days and completely be, I mean, just disconnected in every way. I mean, it is a whole new world over there. And the the language barrier, the culture barrier, like that was amazing to me. To just like go somewhere, hop on a plane. It's just such a crazy concept to me. You hop on a plane, you get off that plane, and you know nothing, you know no one, you don't know how to say anything all of a sudden, and it just like really tosses you on your ass, and you come out on top. Honestly, like to go over there so carefree, it was great. China, hands down. Shanghai was absolutely amazing. That there's just so much cool shit going on over there, and we are so far behind
Oh yeah, 100%.
here. It's uh, I would just I went with my buddy Jack, and we filmed a little bit of the this documentary that he's been doing on me for the last 3 years. He's finally finishing it up here pretty soon, and we filmed a lot over there, like drone shots. I mean, it looked like an action movie from Mission Impossible. Like it was crazy, like the little alleyways and the culture, like the people. I mean, everyone's so nice. The food's great. The architecture's unreal. The, I mean, everything about it. Like, if you've never been to China, it's got to be on your list. Obviously, like after this stuff is, I'd give it a few years, but like it's definitely going to be worth it when you get there. You
Oh,
know.
for sure. Yeah, I'm hoping to hit Japan sometime soon. I really want to go there and kind of explore that area, but China's also on my list. For you, what are some of your goal places that you haven't explored yet that you are dying to go to?
I would love to go. I would love to finally have the chance to go to Tokyo. I had a trip booked March 24th till April
Whale
7th
shit.
this year. Yeah, about that one. So that one obviously was Dunzo, and I did not go. So Tokyo is highly on my list because I actually did some type of research and had spots for it. So I was like, and exploring with Josh, me and him are like good friends, and he kind of plugged me with some spots. So I'm very fortunate of that. But they will be there waiting for me when I get there. I've really let's see. I'm looking at this map right now, actually, in my house. I would love to go to Chernobyl. I
Same.
feel like that's like everybody's urban explorer like honeypot. You know,
Yes.
like oh, we got to go to Chernobyl. Um, I would really love. Oddly enough, I would really love to go to India.
Oh.
Like anywhere in India or around India, like that would work for me. I'd be cool with that.
Yeah, what
I
a
would love to go to like super like third world, like just dirty,
mm,
nasty, ratty countries, or even Iraq, like a war zone. Like
yeah.
I would be all about that.
I
I don't like the nature shit. I'm gonna be like, yeah, I want to go to the dirty shit. I don't want to be like, oh, let's go to where? Let's see on this map. Let's go to Iceland. It's beautiful. I'm like, no, I'm good.
You got to go to Cambodia. I've been there, and it's definitely if you're looking
Cambodia.
for like dirty, grungy, third world kind of place, definitely Cambodia is one of the places you should go.
Cambodia is on the list now.
Yeah,
Then
I'm telling you,
I'll
man.
map it.
They've got, ancient architecture, and they've got, crazy grungy street shots that you can get. It's definitely I only spent a weekend there with my dad one year, and it was very eye-opening, to say the least, you know, and I saw a lot that I wish I had captured. I had just been new to photography when I went, and so I kind of regret not taking more photos, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. I mean, every trip I've done that. I went to Mexico City, Mexico for a week, for a job actually, and I probably didn't walk within 2 blocks away from the whole job I was at the whole time, and I'm like, "I'm such an idiot. Why did I not just walk around?"
Right.
It's just like the whole fear thing, I
Yep.
guess. Fear is real.
Fear is real. Absolutely. So, if you could live in one place you've explored for a week, which place would it be?
Oh, New York, NYC. That city just swallowed me up and spit me out. I mean, that thing is, oh, I still have nightmares about New York, about how I didn't get to see anything even remotely close to what I wanted to see because it's just so massive.
It's such a cool
I
place.
would need a month. I would need a month, not a week. I would need a month at least to feel some type of scratch on the surface in New York.
Wow. Yeah, I got to get back out there. I haven't been there for years, man. And I have one of my clients just moved out there. So now I have an excuse to fly out and explore a little bit. And she's really close to like Times Square. And she's actually been like,
There's just
she's been exploring during the lockdown there. So I've been editing videos for her of like bicycling around an empty Times Square, you know, like it's absolutely
I know.
insane.
It's really crazy right now. I have a couple good friends. I actually had my buddy sent me a set of photos from there that he's actually been taking that I could just edit, just kind of like showcase people like what really is like going on there, you know? Like you see stuff on the media and whatnot, but like to really see it from someone's perspective that has no reason to lie, and it's like not bullshit. Like this is really what New York looks like right now.
Yeah.
It is insane. And God, there's just so much to do. Like you could spend a month rooftopping, you could spend a month street shooting, you could spend a month running train tunnels, or I mean, like possibilities are absolutely endless. I've pretty much in the last 4 years of taking photos in St. Louis, the well has dried up. I can walk the same blocks in about 20 minutes, and I'm just like, well, that's it. Okay, I didn't see nothing. I guess I'm just gonna go back home.
Damn. We got to get you some more inspiration, man.
I need a bigger city
Yeah.
at this point. I love St. Louis, I really do, but it is it is tough. If you can do something here, I do feel like since I've grown up here and like I am like making a career here, that like when I do go to a big city like LA or New York or Chicago, that I'm like, all right, cool. Like I'm already in game mode because I've been waiting to do this kind of stuff.
Right.
Like it is just like hit the ground running.
Yeah. No, I feel you. So my last question for you is, what is something you know now that you wish you knew when you started exploring?
How to pick locks. How to pick locks.
Good answer.
Uh, realistically, I was very, very timid at first, and as bad as it sounds, it is all illegal stuff. But like knowing a cop's response time was really, really helpful
Mm.
now, knowing it.
Mm-hmm.
And not knowing a cop's response time back in the day was like, oh, cool. Like we just set off the alarm. Like we just got to run. Like, no, you probably got about 10 minutes now. This, this 10 minutes are life changing.
Yep. Snap off a
So
couple more photos before you bail.
exactly. It's like you shoot so much more comfortably whenever you know that you're setting off alarms that are blaring in your ears, and it's just like, well, the cops aren't. We still got at least 8 minutes. We're good. Just get used to it.
That's amazing. I love it.
So that's the St. Louis way of doing things. I don't know how it is about other places. I'm pretty sure it's like that everywhere. But
LA, we're real big pussies, let me tell you.
I learned not to be a pussy honestly uh, from Fran and Becca, or well, B word and was fantastic. Now is sketchy, but
Mm, for sure.
that they were a power couple, and they like fuck it, the alarm's going off to keep shooting. I was like, okay, great,
Fantastic.
and that's how it was, you know.
That's awesome, man. So, if somebody wants to find you, buy a print, hire you to shoot some photos, where can they do that? How can they get a hold of you?
So I have everything. I have a link tree on my Instagram at Instagram /Sekondtry. secondtry.com. Well, it's not .com, it's just Sekondtry. But yeah, I have all my prints, my web store, my website. Hopefully, after all this COVID stuff lifts up, I'll actually get to go back on tour and fulfill my dream to be a touring photographer. And I'll have plenty of hopefully dope stuff to show from traveling and whatnot. So be on the lookout. And I might do another book,
Ooh,
maybe.
ooh, that
I
would be
haven't
sick.
decided yet.
That would be sick.
But I want to do all film stuff that people haven't seen before because people don't know that I shoot film. So
got you. Yeah. Well, as somebody
we'll keep that under wraps.
As somebody who does tour photography myself, I wish you the best of luck with that, and hopefully we can start touring again in 2021. I think that's kind of what everyone's pushing for.
God, what a life to live, just to be like, oh man, honestly, that's one thing. I'll say this one last thing. I miss more than anything the roar of a crowd.
Right? Ugh. It's crazy.
Like just to like have that feeling, like even like at a sporting event. Like I'm a huge Cardinals baseball fan, obviously here in St. Louis.
Right.
And like just to hear like 40,000 people just like yelling that, like think about it. You haven't heard that in months, and you're probably not going to hear that for more months.
Oh, that's crazy, dude. But you're so right. Like that's wow. What
it's insane to think about.
Wow.
Like that is.
Wow.
It's a very humbling thing in what's going on right now.
Yes.
Like really, hopefully, I think a lot of people learn to kind of take things day by day and live in the moment more and embrace what's going on right now, because you don't know truly when the fuck it's gonna be gone.
Yep. Absolutely. Hey, well, thank you so much, Sekondtry, for coming on this podcast and sharing your stories with everybody.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely.
I really do appreciate it.
Cool.
And you helped me wake up early, so I do appreciate that too.
You got it. No worries. All right, guys, that was my podcast with Sekondtry. Thank you, Larry, for coming on the podcast and sharing your insights, your stories, and your tips and tricks with the audience here. I had a blast talking to you, and Sekondtry has offered me his network of people, of contacts. So I am now reaching out to more explorers to get them on this podcast. If you have anyone in particular you would like to be on this podcast, or if you yourself want to be on the podcast, you can hit me up at contact@notracers.com, or you can DM me on Instagram at no.tracers if you are interested in talking more. If you guys are interested in leaving me a voicemail, you can actually leave me a message on anchor.fm/notracers. There are links down in the description for everything that I'm talking about. But if you guys have any questions about urban exploring and you want to be a part of this podcast, you want to leave a voice memo, you can do that at anchor.fm/notracers, and I will actually include it here in the podcast. I will answer your question before the next episode. So if you guys have questions, I would love to hear from you. If you did enjoy this podcast, like I said at the beginning, please leave a rating and feedback, and I will send you a signed photo print. If you want a copy of my book or some photo prints of mine, you can head to notracers.com/shop. If you want to help support Sekondtry, I've put his links down in the description as well, his link tree. So if you guys want any of his content, you can check it out there. You can pick up a print. You can support him. And yeah, this is the end of No Tracers. The next episode will be out next Friday. Thank you guys for tuning in. I appreciate you listening. I hope you're enjoying the podcast. Please let me know if you are enjoying it by, like I said, leaving a rating and feedback. And if you want to get notified when the next episode drops, which is going to be next Friday, by the way, hit that subscribe button. And as always, thank you guys. Stay strong, keep enduring, go out, go create something, and remember, leave no trace.